battle back in the day on in Tekken, right, where you could play multiple characters and you know you'd go versus 1v1 with like 8 characters or something, right? And I was thinking like there's no team aspect in fighting games or in Tekken at least. And I was thinking, man, do you know, maybe if there was more of a social element, because you're talking about that spark, right, Iris, and Rick trying to break it down and be like, is it just the community, the people watching, you know, the fact that you feel like there is more than just yourself and the game, or is it the in-person 1v1 aspect? There could be many things that gave that spark. But, you know, I know, and I've spoken to a lot of people, that having like a 3v3 mode online where, you know, you can have a team battle in ranked or unranked where you play with people, your own friends, that, you know, that might make it a lot less shit to play the game, and even if the game is whatever state it's in. I know if I'm playing with Super Akuma and Joey and we do a 3v3 thing and we're playing against 3 random guys and then I get fucked up, I'm like, oh fuck, I lost. And then Joey, you know, he carries and beats the shit out of that guy. Like, I don't know, maybe just the social aspect would make the thing feel a lot better. That's why a lot of people have been saying we need more team tournaments in Tekken right now, because there's a lot. The tournament scene's been very stale as well when it comes to the same shit every single time. Double elimination, first to two, blah 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 blah. So that's what I try to do. Unique tournaments, right? Like Red Bull Golden Letters, you know, put a little twist on it. And all of a sudden, even a game like Tekken 8 that people were not happy with, they really enjoyed playing that game. You know, shouts to Chop as well. He's in the chat. He did a tournament where, you know, it was a very unique kind of prize system. It was exactly the same game. You play versus someone, but it was just a different format, and it was very social, and people really enjoyed it, even if the game was Season 2 Tekken 8. So I'm wondering, you know, is it just because the game hasn't innovated enough with new modes and a way of making the game more social?
I don't think it's that. I think that spark was just the community. Like back in Tekken 7, there was something happening on the other side of the world, and I felt connected to that. I was like, oh, we're all in the same boat. We're all doing this.
Now, all these years later, what has occurred is that some people think that the way it changed after Soul Calibur 2 is better. And some people say Soul Calibur 4 is the best one ever, or 5 is the best one ever, or 3 is the best one ever. Because what occurred is people who liked the old version became extinct, and new people came that liked the new version. So when it comes to the future of Tekken, that is one potential future of Tekken. Maybe over the years, people will say, man, that's old Tekken 7 style. They changed it after that, and we love it much more now. And you never know. At the time, I was appalled that they added magical moves to a game that had no flames, no fireballs. It was just appalling to me. But give it 5 years, give it 10 years. People will literally say, well, Tekken's been this way forever. It's always been an anime goofy game. Look, and we love it that way. That's the way we want it, you know? So you never know how the future will pan out for a franchise, but all I know is this exact thing occurred, and it happened to be a Namco game, and it potentially could have been literally by the same hand. You know, the same person that screwed up what I think they screwed up Soul Calibur. It could have been the same guy with Tekken 8. I don't know. It smells similar. All the colors, all the, like, unnecessary visual noise, all these, like, forced 50-50 situations. These types of... Oh, and also the stance-heavy, like, transitioning into a really powerful option off of the stance. That is all stuff they added in Soul Calibur after 2. In Soul Calibur 3, 4, 5, all those games had stuff just like that. Characters that didn't have those things got those things. So, I mean, it just is too familiar for me. And I, early on, was like, I'm going to step back. You guys enjoy that shit. I've already eaten it, and I didn't like it.
And after that, you didn't have anything to do with the game again, like after you...
No. I've always come back to Soul Calibur. I've come back every time I try it, and because at the end of the day, I like Soul Calibur. I did. But every time it sucks, you know, whatever. And I'm not you know, maybe people see, like, oh, what does Aris think? But that's not how I think. You know, if I like something, I like it. And if I don't like something, I don't like it. I don't really care if it's like something that's negative on the game, or maybe you're making the game look bad, turning people away. I'm not going to sacrifice what little hair is left on my head for some other person or some other company. Or it's about me, you know. If I like it, I'm in. If I don't like it, I'm out. You know, it's just about my own well-being. I want to have a good day. You know, I want to have a good day every day. That's my goal. So,
that's fair enough, man. Fair enough, fair enough. And I think you make a good point as well that maybe in 5-10 years, you look back and, you know, Tekken 9 or whatever's out, and we'll look back at Tekken 8 like, man, that Tekken 8 was a lot better, man, than it is now. Look, you know, it was only...
Very possible.
Yeah, you know, the 50-50 didn't kill you or whatever the hell. I think that this is something that was starting in Tekken 7, and it goes back to your point about kind of the live service and stuff, and the way they kind of patched the game. I think that Season 1 Tekken 7 was good, and I remember interviewing you know, the developers as well, and talking about how Tekken 8 was very different in the sense that they didn't have the arcades to use as a reference for the people to balance the game early on when it got released. So this is the first time they've actually had to make a Tekken without the arcades, without having that kind of initial test in Korea, Japan, and Asia. And that was a bit of a challenge, right? So they brought out the CNT and they kind of tried to get whatever they could from that. But Tekken 7, you know, Season 2 patch, Season 3 Tekken 7 is where a lot of people believe that there was a massive change. And something Nee said in his video, someone mentioned Nee's video, he said that if you look at a game or a fighting game, it's like a dish, you know, like some sort of, you know, some food. And it's got a certain ingredients that you have in that food. Now, once you add loads of different ingredients, it stops being that food anymore. And that's how he explained what Tekken 8 Season 3 is. He said that there's way too many random ingredients here, that it's no longer the dish that it once was. And because the dish has already been cooked, you can't now take those ingredients out. So the game, he, in his words, I'm just quoting what he said, the game can't be fixed now because it has become a completely different dish now. The ingredients cannot be taken out at this point. And the center ground is shifting. So maybe one patch in Tekken 7, I remember they had Miguel and his Sav Downfall 2 launcher had like crazy pushback, and for me that was like, whoa, what the fuck? Now if there was something like that, I wouldn't even bat an eye, because the center ground is shifted. And if they keep on shifting the center ground, then maybe in 5-10 years, whatever we have now will be like totally normal, you know, or like, you know, conservative. So that's the thing. Like, Rip, I want to ask you about this. Like, what do you think then about how the game should be patched, or what do you think about what Nee said as well about, you know, him seeing this as like a dish that can't be changed?
Yeah, you know, two things. First, you know, to Eric's point, you know, trying all Soul Calibers and everything as well, but Tekken has always lost players, older players, as new iterations of the style, right? You go from Tekken Tag 1 to Tekken 4, walls, no floors, get that shit out of here, right? Tekken 5, better great balance stuff, the army were like, okay, cool, whatever. 6 comes out like, rage, what the fuck is this? I'm out of here.
That's all fight.
No, right. I'm saying, so Tekken has done this historically the whole way through, right? And so you've lost some of the oldest players along the way. This is not my Tekken anymore. And then you go to the next one, there's new crazy shit. Tekken 8 is by far the biggest jump, I feel like, from all the past Tekkens. So I feel like they're, you know, on the precipice of losing more of their base than before, and they're gonna have to overcome that by bringing in way more new people, which at this moment, I'm not sure that's working out. But to Nee's point, you know, how to patch this game going forward, you know, I've been looking at patch notes from Tekken for like over a decade now. And Season 2 dropped. It seemed to me like they are not going to revert this. But if there was ever a patch to revert, it's this one. Because you can't really come back from this. Like, this is an entire direction for the game. And so to undo all of this, you know, incrementally going forward is going to be very, very difficult. And now you fast forward to Season 3, and it's really more of the same. Like, yes, we had some good system changes, but overall, the design of how all the characters function is kind of baked in at this point. You know, like, undoing that I don't see that happening in Tekken 8 going forward, right? So we're kind of at this point where you just have to accept it for what it is, and this is Tekken 8 going forward.
Even considering the idea that they would undo stuff like that is totally out of, it's like asinine. There is no way they would ever remove these decisions. In fact, the fact that they have doubled down season 2 and 3 should tell the user, like, dude, stop even thinking. Well, like earlier, remember when Super Okuma said, it's just bad, dude. It fucking sucks. It's bad. These are bad changes. But that's because you think they're bad, right? But think of it from the perspective of the guy who thinks it's good. The guy who's making it and has a smile on their face. That's obviously what they're doing over there. I mean, if they're going to double down on a concept and a vision, that means they're proud of it. You know, they're putting it out. This is what we want. We're not going to change it.
I don't want to remind you what I had to make you realize.
What do you mean?
What did I compare that to? He said, he's so happy, he's smiling when he's at home thinking about this. Thinking of his master game.
Not a good analogy, because this is a work of art, and you see it as a song. Like when an ear hears a song, one ear is going to be moved by it, and another ear is just going to hear it, and it's going to bounce off of their head. It's not going to matter. So the musician here is making the song that they want to make. They made season 2 of the song that they want to make. Or you can call it a dish, right? The way he put it. The chef made a dish, and this is the dish he wants to make. How many times are you going to go back to that restaurant before you realize they don't serve food that I like? You know, you're not going to say, this chef is fucking bad at cooking. I'm going to go back again, season 2, see how much better he got. He still fucking sucks.
No, but
I'm going to go back
menu,
again
bro.
for
They
dinner.
changed the menu. It was good. I like
Why would
it
you go
better,
back
bro.
there?
I'm gonna try out the new menu.
I guess it's like being at a point,
Yes,
it's no
that's-
longer a bad chef. At a certain point,
Yeah.
the chef is not bad anymore. That's what I'm saying. Namco is not making a bad product. They're making the product that they want to make. They're obviously proud of it. At a certain point, we're retarded. That's what I'm saying. At a certain point, it's our fault for keep going back to a place that sells tacos, and we want Tekken. We don't want tacos. We want Tekken. We don't sell Tekken. We sell tacos. I'll be back tomorrow. You better sell Tekken. You know, that's what you're doing.
Yeah. No, like I said, we're done asking for Tekken.
No Tekken again, huh? You only sell tacos, huh? I'm gonna be back for dinner. You better change that shit by then. See you later.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
saying,
what you're
we
doing.
shouldn't expect that anymore. The first time the Tekken salesman sells you the taco, I think it's fair to say, wait, didn't you used to do Tekken? And the guy goes, yeah, this is Tekken. He goes, this is tacos. When I come back, can you make it Tekken? And then you come back, and then it's still tacos. Then you can stop coming. But you should at least that's what happened in season 2. The first time it happened, like, wait, what the hell was that? We were. This was some tacos and some Tekken. Now there's no more Tekken. It's just tacos now. Yeah. It's just like, now season 3 is like, oh wait, they're a taco stand. I'm done. Like you said, now it's the word. Oh, actually, wait.
Let me go back to my previous point of them being posers when it comes to seasons. I think this whole season patching shit is all phony fake shit. And I think that they're not good at it. The only reason they do it is because they're pretending like they are a live service, but in reality they're not a live service, and they're not. That's why you get the sensation of them being stretched in multiple directions, because they're listening to some feedback, but at the same time they're not a live service. They're gonna make the product that they want to make, and you can really tell. That's the case.
I said that a bunch of times recently. It feels like the positive changes, at least the changes that were positive to us, that we liked, it feels like they made them against their will. They compromised their vision. We don't like their vision, right? But they compromised their vision. So the things that we like, it feels like they didn't want to do them. And that's why it feels like they're being stretched in different directions. They should have either just not given us any good or just done it all good. Like it feels weird that like it really feels like it was against their will. They changed some things because we cried so much, and not because they wanted to change them. And that's why the rest of the patch is just more of what they want to do.
Okay, but then
And I
the issue
agree with
might
you.
the issue is sorry, go on, Rip. Go on.
No, I was gonna say it might be different people. Like, you know, we talk about pulling in different directions. Main Man talks about one guy's throwing water on the fire, the other guy's throwing gasoline on the fire. It really feels like there are multiple people making decisions, and it's not a cohesive thing, like Joey mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, you know, the phrase "back to basics." It really scared me because I believed that, you know, after season 2, as you said, Rip, as well, like it's very difficult unless you revert the patch, like to kind of go back to what the majority of the community would feel is basics, right? And you know, once the patch came out, once season 3 dropped, the first question that popped into my head was, what are the basics? You know, according to the people who are in charge, like what do they believe the basics are? Like it kind of confused me because I just knew that, you know, that a lot of people were going to get very upset. So it's going back to the analogy, right? You got tacos and Tekken, right? They're only selling tacos. We're dumb to say to go back every single time. Or like, I don't know, I'm allergic to peanuts. I'll go to a fucking peanut shop and complain. Like, that's stupid, right? Why would I do that? You know, be upset at people selling peanuts, man. It's a peanut shop. But if they then say, alright, we're not selling peanuts no more, this is going to be Tekken only. So come back and, you know, you're going to enjoy some good Tekken. I walk in, fucking peanuts everywhere. And down there. You know, it's like,
The taco stand says Tekken on it, man. Aris, it says Tekken on the shop. They only changed the sign. They only changed the food.
It says Tekken 8 on it, dude. It doesn't say Tekken on it.
I like the Tekken.
You're not a retard. You should not have fed this shit. You know what you're gonna get. You know what you're gonna get when you go back to Tekken 8's taco stand. You ate there 3 times already. You know. Don't
I
say.
liked it the first time.
Okay, but don't tell me, hey, it's a Tekken. It says Tekken on it. It's like.
Yeah, but then I saw the menu, and that was my bad. I should have walked out.
Yeah, now you know.
Now I know.
And like I said earlier about Soul Calibur, I will try every Soul Calibur that comes out forever because I do like Soul Calibur as a concept. Same with Tekken. Every Tekken they ever make, I'm gonna try it without question. But it doesn't mean that I'm gonna expect it to taste like Mom's old Tekken.
I'm just,
you know.
I only now have been
다들
disappointed
테켄
too many times.
망쳐가지고
Yeah.
Like if
망해가지고
like you've been out of the game since they said stop enjoying it after Tekken 6.
포드캐스트까지
I even enjoyed Tekken 8, so it hasn't been that long.
I know.
For me, it hasn't been that long. Which is why I'm still walking past the restaurant hoping
And I see
see
a
a
chili,
chicken.
you know, I can, like I said, I can relate
그걸 가는 게 없는 것
the
같아.
heart rate. It is beyond, like, you know, everyone's behavior is negative
다른
behavior. It's a
사람들이 그렇게
result of
많았다고 해서
caring. It's a result of passion. You know, I mean, everyone's heartbroken. This is how much you cared about this thing, and now it sucks. For one reason or another, right? It's just that when it's a new feeling and it's emotional, and you have the internet and you take away self-control, it's really like a toxic situation. And I was there, you know, I was like that in the past. But I now know that you won't win that fight, and your own sanity is more valuable. So it's better to just let it go. It is. But for people like you who are just experiencing this for the first time ever, it's going to be a lot easier said than done. You know, it's going to be hard to let go of something that's making you feel bad because you don't like it. It's just, you will learn. You know, it's just the way it is.
I'm just waiting for the time when the new thing I want.
Yeah, I hope it happens, dude. I really do. Something, you know, lots of things could happen. You know, this isn't the end of the world, is what I'm saying.
Joey, what do you think then for Tekken 8 now? Because we have season 3. They said there's going to be more patches coming in the future, and I'm not saying that we're going to go back to basics and those following patches, but they said there's going to be more patches coming. But they've already buffed a lot of characters in this. There are actually more buffs than nerfs, and someone even said that if you actually look at the words in the patch notes, they said the word easier. The word easier was used 50 times because they wanted to make shit easier, right? You know, Lord's DSS, for example, you know, I used to find that shit so hype. I watched Go Sane and Rip do while setting 4 DSS, 3+4, counter hit, be like, yo, that is sick. Now, you just hold forward, and it's like, you know, stuff like that, I'm not really intrigued by it. It's not really like fun for me to watch in some regards, but the game, you know, is obviously they're still trying to make it easier. But yeah, what do you think about season 3 and your personal?
So a few things. One, like there seems like this weird conflation that happens between like accessibility and like making the game easier. So I think like those changes that you were mentioning, where like, okay, you can get up off the ground by holding back and you're not gonna like die for it. Like I think that makes the game like more accessible for a newcomer. Like, okay, I can get up, I don't have to worry about it. And like doing things like you know, in Tekken 8, the combo extension mechanic is the tornado. Now, that lasts, like, way longer than the tailspin ever did, right? Like, you go back and play Tekken 7, you're probably gonna drop all your combos. Because you're gonna, like, stroll up after your tornado and be like, oh, I got all the time in the world, but you don't. So combos are actually, like, a lot more lenient and easy in Tekken 8, because they made the tornado last longer, and that's, like, it makes the game easier, right? Because the combos aren't so execution heavy, not so demanding. But these types of changes, when they creep into like, hey, we gave you this move and it does like everything you could ever want it to do. That's like a different thing to me. That's not like making the game more accessible. You're kind of just like corrupting the balance. You're corrupting the battle system because you're just giving options that do everything. Like, oh, this move's like really long range and fast and plus on block. Or this move, like, you know, Heat Smash, shatters armor, long range, gets you another mix-up if it gets blocked, does a bunch of chip damage, like, just these excessively overpowered moves. I think they're very different, just category of change than, like, accessibility, you know? And I see them kind of get talked about like they're the same thing. Perhaps even, like, by the developers, like the way they talk about the game in the patch notes. They sort of like talk about these things like they're the same thing.
Yeah.
There's like this weird phrase in the patch notes, like streamline offense. This allows them to streamline their offense. I just thought that was like a weird phrase. Like, why would you want it to be really easy to streamline offense? That's like an anti-creative term to me. It's like, we want like offense to be less creative, you know, just A to B to C.
Get ready for the next battle.
Anyway, so those things are concerning because I think the accessibility and making the game easier should be different things. And then one other thing I was thinking about, like, at the same time, like so many things have to come together to make a game like really great or enjoyable for everyone. And it's like unfortunate in some ways that I feel like the balance and the battle system has these problems that make the game frustrating for a lot of people because there are like these other aspects of the game that I really want to praise. Like there's a lot about Tekken 8 that like looks super cool. The stages, and I love a lot of the music in this game. And people talk about there being too much visual noise, but there are some like effects that really get me hyped. Like there's like somebody tries to power crush you and you just like shatter through it with your Heat Smash. Just this like car crash sound. It often like just gives me this feeling of like, dumb motherfucker, like try to power crush that. Like it makes me like super hype. Yeah. There's things about the game that they do give me like that satisfaction. This is exciting, the game looks cool, the music sounds cool. So it's unfortunate for me that like they don't have the battle system and the balance like dialed in, because I want to be able to appreciate all of this effort and artistry that went into these other aspects of the game, and it makes me sad when the game just gets shit on and like none of those things can get any recognition.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a few thoughts for you.
No, for sure. I think that, you know, you were there, right, Joey, for the first Tekken 8 play test that we not even play test, but like, you know, they had the full game, the record in London, right, invited you down to that, and we got to play the game. We both experienced at the same time just how crazy good the practice mode was actually, in terms of all the new options that you have. The replay system, the
replay feature is amazing.
Yeah, me and Bubsy were able to showcase a week before the game dropped all these cool things. You know, I know maybe it's not the best customization mode, but there's a lot more options now. So there are a lot of things in the game. Even like, you know, if people might not be a big fan of it, but the Tekken Lounge where you can go run around and stuff. I mean, it's definitely something that we haven't had before, right? So it's something new, and they've definitely put a lot of work into it. But yeah, like you said, it all gets overshadowed from the balance aspect, the kind of gameplay aspect. And for me, if I'm gonna break it down, I'm watching people play characters like Lydia and Victor now. I think is a massive
나
criminal
일자리
in
언제
this now.
구하려나.
It's like everything leads to a stance. The 10-frame punish leads
아,
to a
이걸로
stance. Leads to a stance. Imagine that had running 2 and now you can go into a stance of 50-50.
철권
Which is
아무도
exactly what it is for
다들
Victor, right?
싫어하는
It's a lot easier to do running moves now,
Good.
and you can hold the input to just keep on running to trap people, and so it's harder to sidestep. And now you've got this cross on block chip move that puts Victor into a situation where he can mix you up with stances. And then you got stance transitions. We see what Evo Grand Finals, people were sleeping in the crowd. I was there, people were actually passing. You know, and these are Tekken fans, and they're watching Anna Grand Finals. You know, it's
정말로
because the
저
stance
지를 수
transition,
있어요.
that type of gameplay it's kind of boring to watch. To say as it is, it kind of is just boring to watch. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do this move, and now here are my 3 options. Now you gotta guess. Oh, I did this one, and now I can go into stance from that move as well, and then I can transition into this stance. And it's like, that's not what I believe Tekken is. For some characters, yes, Hwoarang has always been that type of character, right? And people fucking hate him because of that. But you know, Hwoarang, fine, if there's one character that can do that. But now it feels like they've given everyone, like, even Jack, bro. Jack was never a stance character. He's now a stance character. Arslan mentioned on the podcast before that he likes playing characters that are not stance heavy. That's why there's Lina right now, for example. But now everyone is kind of a stance character, and you have to play those stances in order to optimally play Tekken 8, you know?
최강선이 저랑 사귀지 않은 이유가 뭐
That's what it is. They just give you a situation. They
제가
give you like
기다릴
5
필요가
or 6
있어서 그런
curated
거예요?
moves. Forget your 100 moves that make Tekken so fun that you have so many options. They just put you in a set situation that's always the same with like 5 curated moves, and you get to pick that. That way you don't have to think too much. The opponent doesn't have to think too much, even though they do, because they're gonna die otherwise. And yeah, streamlined. That's what they did, and they're doing that to everyone. It used to be character specific. If you liked that, there was a character for you. Now everyone's doing that.
Yeah.
Is this conversation about how watchable Tekken 8 is, or how fun it is to watch?
I think it's both.
I was saying it's not about how fun it is to play, but also to watch. Because I said I don't feel like it's that fun to watch, you know.
Because you know what's going to happen if they're in the stance. It's one of 4 things. So it makes it boring. Because you know more or less what's coming next. Like, oh, he went for the low. Like, that's not that hype, because it was either that or 1 or 2 other options.
This is why, by the way, that even though Asuka was top 3, she's not a stance character. I actually enjoyed playing against her, even though she was really strong. You know, it's funny. I would rather play versus Asuka than some of these like Eddie Gordo, Lydia, you know, Victor, and these type of characters. Because I even though she was really strong, she is still not a stance character. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I personally am like, you know what? If I'm gonna get beaten by some really overpowered moves, and she was overpowered, super overpowered, at least I'm like, you know what? I didn't get stance mixed. You know?
I agree, unless I'm playing against Tibetano.
Well, that's just
그때까지도 최강선이 준비 안 돼 있다면
And the thing is,
아,
the stronger
저럴 수
characters in the
있으려나
game, quote
하네,
unquote, are the
나도.
characters that are not doing that, which is what's crazy. Season 1 Dragon,
그거 정말
Nina,
모르겠다.
the whole time. Like even Yoshi a little bit. Like, it's character, like the stronger characters, the ones that aren't being forced to play that. They usually have the option if they want to. Right now, because they got Anna's doing that. She can play with all the stances or not. Right? Like, that's what's crazy. They're forcing that on everyone, and that's not even what's good.
I may be wrong about
관계를
this, but I
더
believe that like what makes a fighting game more fun to watch has very little to
지금이라도
do
관계를
with
좀 더
the combat design. I think that the simplicity of what's happening on screen makes it more watchable. I think that Street Fighter 4 had less
기다릴
visual
수도 있을
noise,
것
and it
같은데.
was the most watchable and fun
이 얘기
to follow
그만하자.
Street Fighter if you didn't play in history. I think that it's a psychological thing. I think it actually has a lot to do with like the brain and what goes into your eye when you're watching something. The more you remember, Joey was just talking about the visual noise. I think that the visual noise is literally like a psychological turn on. When you look at the screen and there's so much to see, it gets less fun to watch for your brain to interpret all these details, flashes and explosions, even backgrounds and colors and any kind of feathers and flowing capes. All those things become a factor when your mind is processing what it looks at. And I think the simpler is better. I think like in Tekken 7 when you saw two characters fighting each other, it was very easy to understand. All you need to do is know anything about the concept of fighting and you will understand. It's simple. There's punches and kicks. There aren't too many explosions. There aren't surprises like a bazooka. Surprise bazooka is not something that your brain is gonna say, okay, that's cool. It's
계속
not
장난만 칠
something
거예요?
that you're gonna think, you know, it's like a very jarring thing to present to the viewer. So I really think that if you're discussing the
제가 최강선생에 대해 더 많이 알면은 싫어해질까봐 그런 건가요?
it has to do with what you're giving the eye.
최강선생이 절 좋아해야 하니까 내가 최강선생을 좋아하는 거죠.
It becomes like something hard to watch in a
그것만 안
very
바뀐다면
physical way, not in an
전
emotional way.
끝까지 사랑할 자신 있어요.
Let me ask you then, Arista. Let's say that there were less sparks, less crazy animations, less fire, flames like Clive and Lydia with all the stuff going on.
Mechanics too. Mechanics as well.
Yeah, let's say if it was just, let's say they have the same moves, right? They a lot of stance transitions. Would you say that it is that is fun to watch then if it was just less animated, like the stance transitions?
Well, my claim is that the more you add for the eye to see, which includes life bars, which includes meters, which includes flames and installs, and the more you add, the less fun it will be to watch. If you add paint streaks like drive rushes into the middle of the screen, and every character has it, so it's like plaguing, the screen is plagued with purple and green, it's gonna be less fun to watch. That's what I'm claiming. I'm not a doctor, that's just what I think. You know, I think that, like for example, there are other games like any game that you've watched on stream that you can't really get into just by watching it.
Oh, like League of Legends or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You have to. Those types of Tekken and fighting games like this are leaning more towards that direction, where the average person can't just look at it and understand what's going on. You have to know what's going on to understand what's going on, and that's what makes it less watchable to me. The more you have to understand about the game, the less it's just about fists and kicks, you know, the less watchable it becomes. It's just too much noise. And it's not about emotions. It's literally about your eye. Like, it's a turn on to your brain, is what I think.
Yeah, you almost
I gotta disagree, man.
Really?
I'm listening.
A lot of the reason Tekken 7 was praised is because it was visually more interesting because there was like the zooms and like the slowdowns and all that, and a lot of stuff. I personally enjoy watching very chaotic things, very colorful things. In Tekken 7, I played a cool mode, blew up the screen every 5 seconds, and I enjoyed watching it. Personally, I don't really like the whole minimalist. I understand it being, that's a very valid opinion to hold, but I don't think that's necessarily just an objective.
I agree. There are games like Dragon Ball Fighter, for example, that's extreme chaos. But I think there's another aspect to that. I mean, if you know about Dragon Ball, then it's no longer extreme chaos because you understand, oh, this is Goku level 3, he does this. You know, it's really like simplified if you understand it. But I'm talking about to the average pair of eyes.
No, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I've seen people who didn't understand Tekken watch Tag 2, where I was like, wow, I understand everything that's going on. It's so hype for me. and they didn't find it interesting because not enough was happening. And they would watch Tekken 7 and be like, wow, I like this a lot more. I think maybe for some people Tekken 8 has gone overboard in that. That's completely understandable. I think there's a right balance to strike. But you can say above. Let's get Tekken 6 instead of Tag 2, because that way it's only 2 characters, right? It's a lot simpler, a lot less is happening than Tekken 7, with all the slowdowns, power crush, rage arts, special moves, 2D bars, and all that. There's a lot less happening in those games. And I remember, at least during Tekken 7 was praised for having all these extra visuals that weren't a part of Tekken before.
But it wasn't overdone though. That's the thing. It was easy to watch.
Yeah, I think there's a balance to strike. But
yeah.
Like Ares was going more towards even life bars being cluttered on screen. So I would say I'm personally not a fan of the minimalism, and maybe they've gone a bit too much in Tekken 8.
A bit?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I like when shit blows up, but it is a lot. It is a lot. Right? I don't like Clive, for example. Like for me, that's
Clive
too
is a
much.
lot.
Yeah, that's what I draw. I draw the line at Clive. You might draw the line at Tekken 8. Ares might draw the line at even before Tag 2, right? But that's.
I do think that Tekken got really loud in Season 3, Tekken 7. It got really loud. Like, it started to become hard to follow for an expert. You know, like for someone who's been around for decades, it started to become hard to follow as a viewer, you know? So you started to smell it at that point, and that's kind of like when I feel like I stepped away a little bit. But as far as the presentation of Tekken 7, I think that's a big part of its success. It was really simple. It had dynamic camera angle changes. It had excitement when you needed it, but it wasn't there all the time. It was only the end of the rounds. When you have explosions and shit at the start, you're exhausted. Visually, you're exhausted.
It's striking the right balance.
It's overstimulating.
Really, but I'm saying like Tekken historically had a lot less, and it's Tekken 7 when it started being praised for adding noise.
I agree.
Yeah, but only a little bit though. Only a little bit, and it wasn't what it is now, you know. And
it's not.
That's fine. But it's like, again, I agree with that. I think that when I talk to my friends who have the game, they bought Tekken 7, and they watch it, they're complete casuals. Even my nephews, you know, they'll be watching tournaments as well because they see that I was commentating once upon a time.
Get ready for the next battle.
They would watch it and be like, I can follow this. This is fun to watch. Oh, this is so hype. You know, because it's like they know what's happening. They've watched Bruce Lee when they were kids, you know, and they wanted to watch Law, you know, and they're like, oh, that Bruce Lee character's so cool, man. But now it's like, if they were to watch and they see the heat animation, the heat dash, and the stance transitions where the sparks going everywhere, Clive with fire coming out his ass, and bro, you can't see what's happening even as the player. That gets too overstimulating, I believe. What do you think about that kind of, you know, maybe less animation making the game a lot easier and fun to watch?
No, I was actually watching Metal Cat play Tekken 7 last night, and if you just compare Tekken 7 and Tekken 8 now, it's visually so distinct, right? Like, Tekken 7, you're missing like a ton of sparks and effects, and extra visual flair on top of everything, and as you mentioned, you know, all the heat system mechanics already are going to matter as well. But I think just in general, the VFX were way lower in Tekken 7. So you just, as Eric described, you see mainly just the characters and the stages. That's primarily it. You got the life bar, rage matters, you know, to see Kuma's point, Tekken 7 added a lot in terms of presentation, but that was to me more the slow-mo and more of the rage arts, you know, and a little bit of the rage drives maybe, but overall it was pretty minimal in comparison to what Tekken 8 is.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah, Joey, what do you think?
Yeah, it's like the enhanced visual noise. It has to like be an embellishment of certain like key moments. You know, like when the rage drive comes out, like there's gonna be colors and like streaks and like sounds to embellish that moment to let you know something significant has happened. And I think Tekken 7 generally did that balance like really well. It's just like that exclamation point on a hype moment, like Paul's rage drive lands, like the screen's gonna light up, but it's not on everything. And we keep like talking about Clive. Clive is by far the worst friend. Like he'll do one string. He'll do like the heat engager and then that like down forward one string flurry bullshit. It looks like a rage art. It looks like a rage art is happening on the screen and he's just doing like a string that he can do whenever. It's insane how overdone it is. It's way too much. think it's like way beyond anything that was happening in 7.
And it takes away from like the martial arts aspect of it as well, which I think is important to a lot of people, right? Like you want to see the character, performing the move, right? And some of the moves are actually inspired by actual films and martial arts and stuff. And as much as people don't like Thakkamram because of the kind of how strong he is and stuff, but that character represents Muay Thai, right? And it's hard to see what's going on there when there's too many hit animations going on, right? And we don't see the martial arts aspect of it, or the stuff that people appreciate. And as Paris said, yes, much more difficult to follow, which I think is just another issue that people have with Tekken 8. But I think a lot of the things that that people had an issue with in season 2, that those issues still persist, and I'm not seeing people kind of discuss that anymore. They're not discussing like, oh, we want this change. Because I remember back in Heat in season 1, we were talking about it. Look, we want Power Crush heat engagers gone. We want this gone. Like, this needs to be nerfed. Those conversations aren't happening anymore. And is that just because people have given up? Like, what's
I mean, what happened to you after you started discussing what should happen with the game?
I mean, that's me. But
yeah, I mean, that's me too.
Yeah.
And then, I don't want to, well, just say it. You can't say it now. Well, there's other people involved, right? It's crazy how it feels like everyone is silenced now. Like, at the time, last year when I was on this podcast, I don't feel like I said anything that was crazy, but people think that maybe I got removed because of this podcast. And I was very cautious on this podcast last time, right? So I don't think I said anything crazy. And then when I tweeted, like it was a constructive criticism tweet, whatever, I thought I listed out everything that I disliked about the game, which is my thoughts as someone who's passionate about the series, as a commentator, someone who has
the acceptance.
I
You
feel
made
like
your
a
peace
baby,
with it.
dude. I feel like a baby. I really genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, feel bad for people who love Tekken and must continue for one reason or another, whether it's beautiful Riyadh, whether it's streaming viewers, whether it's anything. I sincerely don't envy someone who loves Tekken and is forced to continue for one reason or another, even though their heart doesn't want to. That's a place I've been, and it's not a pleasant place to be. And so, yeah, it sucks for people. It sucks that Tekken 8 is what it is, and this is the way it went down. It feels bad.
Let me touch this really quick. Law in season 3 is fun, and it's crazy because they gave him this new move. It's a high homing attack, 16 frames, and it's +1 on block.
And you can do it from crouch.
And you can do it from crouch. Yes.
That's the best thing about it. That's the best thing about it.
It's amazing, right? And so I was talking to Steve at the EVO Awards. I was like, you know, this is my problem with Tekken 8. This one move, it sort of summarizes the entire issue I have with their systems. And I told Steve, like, so what's the problem? I'm like, okay, let's imagine your back into the wall. I do this move. Boom. I'm +1. What do? He's like, nothing. I'm like, okay. Then I do the move again. I was like, he's like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, exactly. And like, that's it. That's the whole problem. And so many characters have this kind of issue. And the issue is that you don't really have a way out. You have to just make straight up a guess. And it could be very, very bad for you. And you get that feeling a lot when playing the game. But now, the flip side of this is, Law didn't have this before. And now I have this. So now I feel like I played Tekken 8. And I didn't have that before with my character. So, in a way, it's like it feels more fair for me, which it didn't before. So it's like, if you want this feel for everyone, give everyone this bullshit. Everyone's gonna be pissed, but everyone will also be a little bit happier. I don't know what the answer is, but it's weird. It's very strange.
Yeah, but the thing, what about when you play against an old player and you're in that same situation?
Oh, I hate it.
Exactly, right? So, like Super Cooper said, when you have the bullshit, and you apply that, someone is on the other end taking that bullshit, right? And it's gonna happen to you.
I apologized after grand finals so many times during Tekken 7. Like, I would shake their hand. I wouldn't say GG's, I'd say sorry.
That would piss me off if you said that. If you apologize to me after beating me, I'll get pissed, bro.
Like, I did that so many times during Tekken 7 because I knew what I was doing. I mean, but that's the game. What am I going to do? Not do that? Not leave with my money? It's my money. I picked the right character.
To be fair, Law was complete bullshit before this move came about. I can't let you off the hook with that one.
Okay, hold on. Law was very good. I completely agree. Law was very good. People think top 5. I think probably top 10. But the nerf, the big nerf to me is losing the wall heat smash, right? The wall splat on the heat smash. I think that's a pretty big nerf. Is heat time reduction on the nunchucks is crazy because he should never have had it in the first place. I don't think anyone gets more heat timer back. So like the fact that he got nerfed there, like it's a nerf, but like I don't know.
It's the same thing. It doesn't matter.
So what's the point? Exactly. The other thing is, you know, this is also a system-wide issue with Tekken 8. They gave his down 1, which is a low poke, they sped it up, right? So now it's faster. And they've done this with multiple characters where their low pokes are faster now so that you have less of a chance to react to it. And that to me is just problematic in general, and that's kind of one of those things where, how do you fix that long term? Like, are you just going to slowly undo all of those changes? You're not. So I feel like it's tacos now, right? So that's what it is. It's tacos. What's the other part? Tacos. Law's DSS change. Law's DSS change is the weirdest shit to me. Not the easy input. They gave him the just frame input on his DSS forward 1, and you have to do it slower than perfect to be perfect, right? So if you do it slower on your transition, you have to wait for his legs to come back down, then do the input, then it comes out at 13 frames, which connects as a combo. But if you do it faster than that, it's 14 frames, but doesn't connect as a combo, which makes 0 sense. So it's not even like frame data at this point. I don't know if that's like a special case exception thing, right? That doesn't follow frame data rules. What was that?
It's input buffer. Because it's 14 frames, but it doesn't come... The point where it's 0, like the point where you start counting, there's still frames where you're both stuck. That's why you don't start counting because you're both stuck. But you can input during that. That's why.
So my issue with that is like, this just frame isn't that first frame of your input buffer. right? So like, the fastest possible input you can do it, which would be the perfect timing for it, is not where the gist frame is. And that feels really bizarre to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask then, moving on to our final topic, the future, and I'll start with Joey for this one. Joey, okay, we're here now. It's the 1st of April, 2026. Game came out in Jan 2024. Game's probably going to be out for another few years, couple years, I don't know. Where do we go from here? You know, what would you say needs to happen for the game to be acceptable in your eyes in terms of like you as a competitive player, and you know, does there have to be a lot of changes, or are there like some system changes that could just be enough for you to be happy?
It's such a hard question. Like, it's really hard to say. And like, in some ways, I feel like almost a little bit exhausted. It's been like 2 years of like, how do they fix the game? What do we have to do? It's like, not my job. I'm not a developer. Like, I thought like they would figure that shit out, you know. But I think, I mean, I think what Eris has been saying today is right. You know, there has to be like a certain amount of acceptance. Like, this is what the game is. At the same time, I think there are like some standout situations and like moves on pretty much every character that I think like just some common sense balancing could be done. But we were just talking about Law. Like, he slides on you when he has heat. He turns around, flips you over with a nunchuck. You are in possibly one of like the most obnoxious vortexes in the entire game. Like, that's just, it's gotta go. There's just like things like that where like, how is that a thing? He's doing this slide, he's hitting you with the nunchuck, he's getting like, what, 30 plus damage, regenerating heat into another mix-up. It's just insane. And like, there are things like this, June's laser beam, I was using that phrase, like, I can't believe I'm fighting this, you know, like, just common sense stuff that you could refine and just make the game better, and not put people in these, like, unbelievably frustrating, like, helpless feeling situations. Just, like, get back to neutral. Get back to neutral and, like, play the game, and people will feel better, and they'll be having, like, more fun. So if those types of changes could be made, you know, I think improvements to the game are available. People that are like talking about like overhauling the heat system itself, I mean, obviously it's just not going to happen. I have had like an issue with the general flow of the game, where you know, you'll see just like the very first launch, the player activates heat, and it's like it's a good
frame data at this point. I don't know, that's like a special case exception thing, right? It doesn't follow frame data rules. What was that?
It's input buffer. Because it's 14 frames, but it doesn't count. The point where it's 0,
Yeah.
the point where you start counting, there's still
Right.
frames where you're both stuck.
Yeah,
That's why you
you're
don't
still
start
buffered
counting
in.
because you're both stuck. But you can input during them. That's why.
So my issue with that is like, this just frame isn't that first frame of your input buffer, right? So like, the fastest possible input you can do it, which would be the perfect timing for it, is not where the gist frame is. And that feels really bizarre to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask then, moving on to our final topic, the future, and I'll start with Joey for this one. Joey, okay, we're here now. It's the 1st of April, 2026. Game came out in Jan 2024. Game's probably going to be out for another few years, couple years, I don't know. Where do we go from here? You know, what would you say needs to happen for the game to be acceptable in your eyes in terms of like you as a competitive player, and you know, does there have to be a lot of changes, or are there like some system changes that could just be enough for you to be happy?
It's such a hard question. Like, it's really hard to say. And like, in some ways, I feel like almost a little bit exhausted. It's been like 2 years of like, how do they fix the game? What do we have to do? It's like, not my job. I'm not a developer. Like, I thought, like, they would figure that shit out, you know? But I think, I think what Aris has been saying today is right. You know, there has to be, like, a certain amount of acceptance. Like, this is what the game is. At the same time, I think there are, like, some standout situations and, like, moves on pretty much every character that I think, like, just some common sense balancing could be done. But we were just talking about Law. Like, he slides on you when he has heat. He turns around, flips you over with a nunchuck. You are in possibly one of, like, the most obnoxious vortexes in the entire game. Like, that's just, it's gotta go. There's just, like, things like that where, like, how is that a thing? He's doing this slide, he's hitting you with the nunchuck, he's getting, like, what, 30 plus damage, regenerating heat into another mix-up. It's just insane. And, like, there are things like this, June's laser beam, I was using that phrase, like, I can't believe I'm fighting this, you know, like, just common sense stuff that you could refine and just make the game better, and not put people in these, like, unbelievably frustrating, like, helpless feeling situations. Just, like, get back to neutral. Get back to neutral and, like, play the game and people will feel better and they'll be having, like, more fun. So if those types of changes could be made, you know, I think improvements to the game are available. People that are, like, talking about, like, overhauling the heat system itself, I mean, obviously it's just not going to happen. I have had, like, an issue with the general flow of the game where, you know, you'll see just, like, the very first launch, the player activates heat. And it's like, it's a good idea. It's a good idea, like, the very first opportunity you have, activate heat. That just goes along with making the game like feel streamlined and less creative and less interesting. Just activate heat, get them to the wall, try to kill them with wall pressure and heat pressure. It's not too interesting to play. It's not that interesting to watch. But things like that, I don't know if they ever would change. But my hope would be that they would refine some of the really bad, like the worst offender, like, balance decisions, and just kind of rein things in. But other than that, you know, like, the game is what it is, and I don't even really want to sit, like, thinking about, like, well, what could it be, or what if they changed this, or what would the consequences be if Heatburst didn't do this? Like, I'm kind of just sick of it, you know?
Yeah. Especially if you don't think that they're gonna, at this point, that anything's gonna change, and it just becomes exhausting. I will say, though, that in Season 3, like I mentioned, there was one character that got really good nerfs, and that was Asuka. Asuka obviously was represented very often in, like, the top 8s and top 3s in tournaments. You know, Fergus, Kingray Jr., Tibetano all qualified for the Tekken World Finals. I think 2 of them qualified for EWC as well. Asuka was everywhere, pretty much. And they nerfed her best moves. Like, you know, full crash down 4-3 was nerfed in such a great way so that you don't have to take any mix-ups afterwards. Down 1+2 no longer guarantees any hit anymore after that. And the forward 2 Tooth Fairy that used to flip over no longer flips over anymore. And I think that flip over Oki is one of the most obnoxious things that they added into Tekken, and that was back in Tekken 7, right? And I remember even Starscream, old school player, he was like, as soon as flip over Oki got added into the game, he goes, this is a problem. And I didn't realize it until a lot later, but I'm like, holy fuck, it is a problem.
High potassium symptoms.
하이 포타슘 심탐제.
We're going to talk about high levels of potassium in your blood. Okay? First thing you need to know is the name of that is hyperkalemia. When you have a deficiency of potassium in the blood, that's called hypokalemia. The other thing to know, which is very important, is that 98% of all your potassium in your body is inside your cell, not outside the cell, and not in your blood. So when we're evaluating hyperkalemia, we're really looking at this 2%. So we don't really see the whole picture of what's going on. It's very rare. There are very little symptoms that are associated with this. If it's severe, you can get palpitations, you can be very tired and have muscle pain and weakness. there's a condition called pseudo-hyperkalemia. In this situation, when they're drawing your blood to get the sample, to do the testing, if they damage your blood cells as they're drawing it out, there's some type of trauma involved, what happens is it cracks open these cells and leaks out more potassium, giving this pseudo or false impression that you have high levels of potassium. So just want to bring this point up right here. Now, there's a couple reasons why you might have high levels of potassium in the blood. Advanced kidney disease is probably the number one, because when the kidney is damaged, you don't release certain minerals, especially potassium. Addison's disease is another reason. This is an autoimmune condition of your adrenal glands in which you're losing a ton of sodium. And when you're losing all this sodium, you're also retaining potassium. So you would not necessarily ever want to give someone potassium if they had advanced kidney disease or Addison's disease. There's a couple medications that can also raise your potassium in the blood. NSAIDs for pain and certain high blood pressure medications. Now, the other thing to know is excessive intake of potassium is not a primary cause of hyperkalemia. Why? Because your body has certain mechanisms to get rid of excessive potassium. And this is very different from sodium. We tend to retain sodium. So if we take too much potassium, our bodies can get rid of it very easily through the urine. Now, what's interesting is the treatment for hyperkalemia is taking certain types of calcium or injecting the person with insulin, and I'm talking medical treatment, or dextrose, which is a sugar, or sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda. Now, what I find interesting is these two things right here, insulin and dextrose. So if you're in a high-carb diet and you're raising insulin, or you're going to elevate sugar, you're going to create more of a problem with this right here, not this right here. Now, it's also important to talk about the opposite of hyperkalemia, hypokalemia, which is way more common. It's the most common form of electrolyte imbalance when someone's hospitalized. And here are a few symptoms: leg cramps, weakness, constipation, abnormal heart rhythm issues, arrhythmias, etc. And the main point I want to bring up, which is the last point, is you have to realize that the vast majority of potassium is inside the cell, and so measuring it based on the blood is not a good way to determine if you have too much or too little potassium. There is another test, it's an intracellular potassium test, which is much more valuable, and I'm going to put a link down below if you want to know more information about that. I would highly suggest to get this test if you're interested in knowing your intracellular potassium and intracellular magnesium. It gives you a lot of great data, and it can also tell you if you're at risk for getting arrhythmias, because that would be one of the big symptoms of that, or even high blood pressure. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Before you go, if you have a question about a product, or you're new to keto and you want to know how to begin keto, or you're on keto and you need a debug because it's not going smooth, I have a keto consultant standing by to help you. This is just for the people in the US. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to answer everyone's call, but I put the number down below so you can call and get some help.
Round 2. Fight. Round 3. Fight.
Alright, I have another very interesting topic, inflammation, okay? Inflammation is a normal healing repair process, but the problem is when your body has chronic inflammation, all sorts of destruction can occur. And also an infection against a virus or bacteria or another pathogen, it's our own body's reaction to that pathogen that creates the damage. In other words, it's our own immune inflammatory condition that creates the collateral damage that we should be concerned about and understand thoroughly in order to counter all this damage. I mean, think about a cytokine storm where you have this hyper-inflammatory immune response in your lungs. Not just give you prednisone, which is a synthetic cortisol to help calm it down, but it's the excess amount of inflammation that really creates this collateral damage. And then you have autoimmune diseases, right? Crohn's, rheumatoid arthritis, even alopecia, which is like patches of your hair falling out, is an autoimmune disease. And the common theme for autoimmune diseases is inflammation. So if you can get rid of inflammation, you can get rid of the complications and symptoms and problems with that autoimmune disease. Then you have old injuries where the body then creates this inflammation that then can persist chronically over years, creating all sorts of scar tissue, stiffness. And I have first-hand knowledge of that with my left elbow, my back, my ankles, from all the massive injuries that I've experienced. And out of all the drugs, the top-selling drugs, the number one worldwide selling drug is Humira. What is that drug for? Inflammation. And so a tremendous amount of people on this planet have too much inflammation. Now, before I get into the causes of inflammation, I want to touch on a new word that you may never heard before. It's called inflammatory onchotaxis. Now, what is that? It's a phenomenon where cancer tends to spread into areas of mechanical injury to your body. So we're talking about old injuries where there was inflammation, and that can be from many different things. You could have food irritation to your colon, where you have this repetitive inflammatory response in your colon where the cancer spreads into. It could be in the lungs where you're a chronic smoker, where you had inflammation. It could be in the arteries due to high levels of glucose because
Okay,
you are on a high carb diet.
let's go.
Or it can actually travel into breast tissue because you had some type of injury to your breast tissue. And this is important data because this gives us prediction on where we might get cancer. So that way we can do something about it before we get cancer. All right, let's start with number one, the first cause of inflammation. This is a lack of cortisol. It's the main anti-inflammatory hormone in the body, cortisol. And so how do you get a lack of cortisol? Well, guess what? By having too much cortisol. Too much cortisol, just like too much insulin, creates cortisol resistance. And so you have this situation where you actually have a lot of cortisol flowing in your bloodstream because you're under a lot of stress, but it's not effective, it's not working. So if you look at a condition like Cushing syndrome where you have high levels of cortisol, all the symptoms really relate to a deficiency of cortisol. That is because the receptors become resistant when you have high levels of that hormone flowing through your bloodstream. The same thing happens with diabetes. With diabetes, you have high levels of insulin because the glucose is high, but it doesn't work. That's why the blood sugars start going higher, because there's nothing there to push it down. Insulin is supposed to lower the blood sugar, but if it's ineffective, it's not going to do that. So any condition where you have an itis, whether it's bursitis, arthritis, tendinitis, usually involves a lack of cortisol, because you have too much cortisol, and that's what resistance.
사람 가지고 놀려고 밀당하는 거 아닐까?
It's just one way your body tends to protect against excess amounts of cortisol, but in the process, it gives you a lot of other symptoms. Now, just so you know, the best thing for anything related to itis is vitamin D, and I'm going to get to some of the remedies after I'm done with the causes. But what you should know is any condition where you have a need of prednisone or more cortisol because you have inflammation, you can substitute that with vitamin D. And at least doses of 10,000 IUs, but probably 20 or 30 or even 40,000 IUs to create the effect, because vitamin D is the best anti-inflammatory. And it's not really even a vitamin, it's a hormone which acts very similar to cortisol. Alright, the next cause of inflammation is allergies, okay? So you have the obvious food allergies, like you're allergic to dairy. Now that could be casein, the protein in milk, And so if you eat dairy, it's going to create a constant inflammatory condition in your digestive system. What about gluten? That's the protein in wheat. How many people are allergic to gluten? Many, many people. And even if you don't have an allergy to gluten, you can have a gluten sensitivity. Or dairy, you might have lactose intolerance, right? You're not tolerant to the milk sugar. So all these things can create inflammation. And then you have environmental allergies, right? So you have, let's say you're allergic to ragweed or something like that. That's exposing your sinuses or your throat or your lungs to this environmental allergy, and it's creating an irritation and inflammation. Or what about poison ivy? If I come, 300 feet next to poison ivy, I'll start itching. So I am deadly allergic to poison ivy, and I seem to get it every single year. And at this point, I can't take anything for it because it doesn't work. And then you have another type of allergy where you're allergic to your own tissues, okay? That's called autoimmune. And you might not look at it like an allergy, but it's really an allergy to your own tissues where your immune system is attacking itself. You developed antibodies against your own tissue, and that can be for any tissue, like Hashimoto's, which is an allergy to your own thyroid hormones. You can have lupus, where you have this allergy to certain connective tissue, or you can have MS, where you have this allergy to your own myelin sheath in your brain. Myelin sheath is the coating around the nervous system. And if you think about what is the main treatment for autoimmune, Humira is one of the medications, but they also use prednisone because cortisol is a powerful anti-inflammatory. Cortisol has an immune suppressive action. It basically turns off the immune system. So it just turns it off. So now you don't have all these reactions. The problem is it comes with a package. If you have no immune system, you're more susceptible to having viruses invade the body and all sorts of things happening that you kind of lose your immune army. And in that process, without inflammation, without immune reactions, it can give you a whole series of additional problems. All right, number 3, let's talk about that. You have either acute infections or chronic infections. Now, it's pretty simple to understand. You get exposed to a virus or a bacteria, and then your immune system kicks in. You have this inflammatory reaction, and then it goes away. But what happens when you get chronic infections where the virus goes into the body, and it goes into a dormant state, and it keeps coming out of remission, and then goes back into remission, like Epstein-Barr virus, like Lyme's disease. And there's many infections that lie dormant, waiting for the right opportunity to come out and kick you when you're down. So these latent viruses tend to come out during times of stress. And so stress is a trigger for this infection that then will create inflammation. And so this just tells us that we need to strengthen our immune system. And the way to protect ourselves and prevent these viruses from coming out is just to stay super healthy, and then you're protected. All right, number 4, gut inflammation. So whether someone has an ulcer or gastritis or irritable bowel syndrome or some autoimmune disease, there could be several causes of this inflammation in the gut. Mainly it's going to be foods, okay? Now that could be a food allergy. It could be just inflammatory foods, as in high omega-6 fatty acids like soy oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil. These oils are so pervasive in our food supply, and you're going to be very susceptible to
losing weight and burning fat. You are arguably one of the biggest experts in the field with over 3 billion views on your YouTube channel. And my team and I have spent over 100 hours looking at all your videos, and we've come up with the best 60 tips that will help you lose weight and burn fat without excessive exercise or counting calories. And if you want any chance of burning fat, I would watch this entire video to the end. You will learn the world's easiest strategy to help you lose weight and burn fat, and a few unconventional tips that might surprise you. So Dr. Berg, my first question, what is the number one thing that people need to focus on to lose weight and to burn fat?
reducing insulin, okay? And that has to do with reducing your carbohydrates and not eating so frequently. Those are the 2 most important things when you're trying to lose weight.
Absolutely. So when you say focus on insulin, what is it about the hormone insulin that might make someone put on weight and put on that belly fat that people don't want?
Insulin is a hormone that is has several things it does. Number one, it prevents. But the question question is, what type of exercise would be the best exercise to help you lose this belly fat? So I do want to share some new information on this topic that I stumbled on a research paper that involved 54 different. Hi guys, Dr. Berg here. In this video, we're going to talk about how to burn belly fat step by step. Now, in a lot of other videos, I talk about specific parts of weight loss, how to burn fat, all different aspects. In this video, we're going to put everything together, okay? There's really three basic sections. The basics of what to do. Things to add the speed of weight loss. And things to avoid speed of weight loss. Okay, so let's talk about the basics first. This might be just repetitive, but if you've never seen a video from me, this would be very helpful. Make notes. And I'll put videos down below for a lot of the summaries and other videos that you can get detailed information on each thing. Because I think you probably put videos on each separate item. Next is 2 to 3 meals a day. Okay? Start with 3 meals. You don't want to glaze all day, because every time you eat, you spike this hormone that prevents weight loss called insulin. So eating in general is something like that. So we want 3 meals a day, or maximum 3 meals a day, minimum 2 meals a day. So some people go over 2, and I'll get more into that when we get into this next part right here, which is no snacking. So when you have 6 meals a day or 5 meals a day, and they're small, they're spread out, and you're snacking between meals, you're going to stack this. We don't want to do that. That's going to create a big problem for you. So snacking is vital, very, very important. Okay. Now, right here, I suggest you start with 3 meals and then do that for a while.
Harder than that.
And then go to 2 meals. And you can do it unless you can't do it because you're working out hard and you need 3 meals a day. I would say it's 50-50. If you're sedentary, you can get by with 2 meals a day and you will lose some serious weight resection. Insulin is the hormone that is responsible for the resection weight. So 3 meals is snacking. Okay, as far as protein, 3 to 6 ounces based on your size, your stress level. You need more protein. You don't want to go too much because too much protein will stimulate insulin. Okay, 3 to 6 ounces per meal. Now, if you're not hungry for protein, you can say for dinner, then don't eat it. So this is kind of an average. Now, next one is 7 cups of veggies. Why? Because we need to flush out all this fat that's going to be coming out through the liver. All the fat through the body has to go through the liver, and if you don't consume enough vegetables, it's going to be fat in the liver. Plus, vegetables is potassium you need about 47 milligrams. That's a lot. So that's about 7 to 10 cups. Very few people do that, but you want to consume the vegetables first and have a huge salad and then a small Now, next one is no sugar. This is insulin, and also talking about the sugars, the breads, and also cereal crackers, waffles, pancakes, muffins, alcohol. Okay, so we want to cut the sugar and refined carbs out. Next one, healthy fats. This is essential because when you consume fat at the end of the meal, that allows you to go to the next meal without being so hungry. Hi guys, Dr. Berg here. In this video, we're going to talk about how to burn belly fat step by step. Now, in a lot of other videos, I talk about specific parts of weight loss, how to burn fat, all different aspects. In this video, we're going to put everything together, okay? There's really 3 basic sections. The basics of what to do, things to add the speed of weight loss, and things to avoid speed of weight loss. Okay, so let's talk about the basics first. Some of this might be just repetitive, but if you've never seen a video from me, this will be very helpful. Take notes. And I'll put videos down below for a lot of the summaries and other videos so you can get detailed information on each thing. Because I think a lot of videos on each separate item. Basics. 2 to 3 meals a day. Okay?
이 사운드 스트리밍
Start with 3 meals, and then when you want to go to 2, you don't want to graze all day because every time you eat, you spike this hormone that prevents weight loss called insulin. Okay? So eating in general will stimulate that. So we want minimum 3 meals a day, and maximum 2 meals a day, minimum 2 meals a day. So some people go to 2, too.
Round 3.
And I'll get more into that when we get into this next part right here, which is no snacking. So if you have 6 meals a day or 5 meals a day, if you're small, you're spread out, if you're snacking between meals based like insulin, that's going to create a big problem for you. So moving snacking is vital, very, very important. It's called intermittent fasting. Okay? Now, right here, I suggest you start with 3 meals and then do that for a while. Closest to fat burning, and then go to 2 meals if you can do it, unless you can't do it because you're working out hard and you need 3 meals a day. I would say it's 50-50. If you're sedentary, you can get by with 2 meals a day, and you will lose some serious weight in your midsection. Insulin is the hormone that is responsible for the midsection weight. So 3 meals, no snacking. Okay, as far as protein, 3 to 6 ounces based on your size, your stress level. You're going to need a little more protein. You don't want to go too much because too much protein will stimulate insulin. Okay, 3 to 6 ounces per meal. Now, if you're not hungry for protein, let's say for dinner, then don't eat it. So, but this is kind of an average. Now, next one, 7 cups of veggies. Why? Because we need to flush out all this fat that's going to be coming out through your liver. All the fat through the body has to go through the liver, and if you don't consume enough vegetables, you can end up with a fatty liver. Plus, vegetables give us the potassium we need. We need about 4,700 milligrams. That's a lot. So that's about 7 to 10 cups. Very few people do that, but you want to consume the vegetable first and have a huge salad and then a small amount of protein. Now, next one is no sugar. This is a given because sugar increases insulin, and also I'm talking about the hidden sugars, the breads, pasta, cereal, crackers, biscuits, waffles, pancakes, muffins, alcohol. Okay, so we want to cut the sugar and refined carbs out. Next one, healthy fats. This is essential because when you consume fat at the end of the meal, that allows you to go to the next meal without being so hungry and craving and starving that your blood sugars crash. So this basically allows you to do 3 meals or 2 meals without being hungry, thereby not increasing insulin. Fat is one of the only things that does not increase insulin. It's neutral, so this is safe. If you're worried about calories, I put some links down below. Okay, these are the basics. Now, if we want to speed things up, we can add some MCTs to the diet. That's like in coconut oil, medium chain triglycerides. That will increase fat burning. Next one is potassium. Why? Because at the heart of weight loss, we want to avoid insulin. And so most people that can't lose weight have too much insulin. They have insulin resistance, so we want to fix that. Potassium is one of the ways to do that. You can consume all these vegetables or even take it in some supplement, potassium citrate, to actually heal the aberration or dysfunction of insulin. Next thing is apple cider vinegar. Why? Because the acid in apple cider vinegar, called acetic acid, does improve the output of insulin. It reduces insulin. It improves insulin resistance. It lowers your blood sugars. So it's very good for diabetics. And take this 1 in the morning, 1 teaspoon with a glass of water, and 1 before bed, or with your dinner if you have digestive issues. Chromium. Again, you can find a supplement with chromium to help your blood sugars. Chromium is a mineral that actually has been proven to help insulin. Again, keep it in check. B vitamins, another key thing, especially vitamin B1, for regulating insulin control and improving insulin resistance. Nutritional yeast is your go-to. Okay, next one is high-intensity interval training. If you add high-intensity full-body resistance training, you're going to spike growth hormone and you're going to speed up weight loss. The key is short bursts of high intensity, lots of rest. Okay. Again, I'll put some videos down below to get specifics on that, but this one is the icing on the cake. Okay. Next one is more sleep. Adding more sleep. Why? Because growth hormone is triggered when you're sleeping, and that is the primary hormone that stimulates fat burning. So more sleep. So if you could just take a nap, sleep in longer, get an extra hour of sleep, that goes a long way. That's more important than high-intensity interval training. Sleep is the key, okay? Now, next one is recovery. Making sure that if you are doing high-intensity interval training, that you're recovering after. You're not doing it every day. Some people need to do it every other day, some people every third day, some people once a week, depending on how you feel when you work out. If you're really broken down, then you're overtraining. Okay, so recovery is essential if you're exercising. Now let's take a look at what you need to remove. This is just as important as this. Okay, remove any type of sleeping issues, insomnia, vital. Why? Because you're not going to lose weight if you're not sleeping.
Round 1.
Right?
잠을 자야
Video down
되는데.
below of what you do if you're not sleeping. There's a lot of things you can do. It's mainly stress. Bloating. If you're bloating, let's say you're consuming too much kale or too much milk.
잠 좀 자야지.
Too
끝나고.
consuming and you're bloating.
잠 자는 걸 연습해줘야 돼.
Go back to the vegetables and digest. Maybe even steam some until the bloating goes away. Also, people consume nuts that can create bloating. Again, you want to eliminate anything that bloats. Sometimes adding vinegar or an acidifier for the stomach.
안 오더라도.
Menstrual cycle issues. If your cycle is 2 weeks out of the month,
몇 번만 더.
it's the high level of
아니야,
estrogen
아니야.
blocks the thyroid.
잘 돼.
Estrogen creates fat on the hips, the thighs, and you need to handle this cycle so it's really smooth. Again, I put a link down below what to do for that. This is kind of like a little bit of an assessment for you to see what areas you have problems with. Okay? Some of these don't apply. Okay, stress.
Round 3.
Mainly, get a list of all the people you know that stress you out and avoid them for a while. You want to avoid the news. You want to avoid stressful situations. You want to do certain activities. I recommend an acupressure for stress out. Due to enhance the reduction of stress because cortisol is triggered, and cortisol will stop your weight loss. So I will put some links down below. MSG, what is that? Monosodium glutamate. That's a
자자.
lot of food. Start
태원생이도 얼른 자요.
It's in,
안
oh
그러면
my gosh, it's in
일주일에
cottage
2번 안 와.
cheese. Unless it's organic. It's
자요.
in all the fast food restaurants. I mean, all their foods. It's in Chinese food.